If I could ask everybody to take their seats, the chairs are just coming to the podium. And also I'd like to remind everybody that we will be using Confer in this session. If you don't already have an account, it's very easy and fast to create an account with a valid email address to click on the link.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Policy SIG. In the first presentation, we would like to invite Alan to introduce the ITHI. Let's welcome Alan. Yeah.
Good morning. Can you get the slides up? Merci. Perfect, thank you. So my name is Alain Durand. I work at ICANN in the office of the CTO. So we have technical people, not the policy people, so kind of the good people, maybe not. I would like to talk to you about a project that we started a while ago called ITHI. So ITHI stands for Identifier Technology Health Indicators. And it all started with somebody asking a question like, are we doing better this year than last year at maintaining all those unique identifiers for the internet? How do you answer a question like this? Well, you need to have kind of a baseline and then try to see the trend from the baseline. So that's what we're trying to do here. So this is to track over time a set of indicators that reflect, quote unquote, the health of the system of identifier that I can help to maintain. Health is in quote unquote because nobody knows what health is. So we spent a lot of time last year to try to talk about this, and we came with the idea of problem areas, which is probably better than health. But we started with the name health in the project, so we stay with it. So we have some indicators of those things. And an indicator is like a number. It's like 725. Is 725 good? I don't know. But if this indicator map a metric and we have a model that explains that if that metric has a lower number, then it's better. And last year I had 725 and this year I have 600, then I'm doing better. If I had 800, I will be doing worse. So the actual number don't mean anything. The variation of a number is what is really important. So our role in the office of a CTO is to try to create those metrics and the numbers for the measurements. And to work with the community to do this, we're not just going to do this on our own, but we're going to present the data to help people who make policies take informed decisions and make informed policies. This is not our role to create policy. Clearly not. But it will be up to the communities to do this policy, and hopefully our data will help them. So we have 3 branches in this project. One is the names, numbers, and protocol parameters. I mean, you're familiar with that. On the numbers side, we had a number of discussion with the NRO, and the NRO has decided to take the leadership on this. So the registry services people have, from all the IRs, have proposed a set of metrics, and we heard yesterday that there is now a community process to go and provide some feedback to them. And I think the deadline is December 12th, and I strongly encourage all of you to go and participate to this discussion. at some point, this part of the project will be merged back with what we are doing. So the rest of my presentation is really focused on what we are doing on the name side. So I was talking about problem areas. So we have identified 5 problem areas. It does not mean that there are not others, but those are the ones we are going to really focus on at the beginning. First one is data inaccuracy, and we all talk about how important it is to maintain accurate data in our database. That's essentially job number 1. Second one is on abuse of DNS. Third one is some overhead in DNS route traffic, and we had a presentation from Jeff Houston yesterday about how this is important. Fourth one is about leakage, when there are some names that have not been delegated but that we find being used in many places. You can think about corp, home, and mail, but there are many others. And the fifth one, we used to call this lies, but I've been told by lawyers that saying the word lie is not really good, so try to find a different wording for this. This is about misbehavior that are observed in some DNS resolvers. I'll talk about this more later. So the process for us is to find some data source. That data source may contain some publicly identified names in it, information, PII, or may have some private data that we cannot share. So we can analyze this data because we have a contract with whoever owns that data, sometimes even I can, but we cannot publish that raw data. So what we can do is to extract information from this, essentially up-level this information and aggregate it and provide some aggregate from this. So we are going to do this, process the data, compute some graph, and then publish this processed data so that you can compute your own graph if you like to, or you can study this data and draw your own conclusion. That's the one thing that we are not going to do, is to draw any conclusions from this. We'll leave that up to the community. So I'm going to show you a few metrics that we have been looking at. And those slides will be, of course, available. If you have comments, please come talk to me. I'm here till Friday. On data accuracy or data inaccuracy, we have split this into 2 metrics. We ICANN are somewhat different from the IR because we don't have the registration data. It's owned by the registrars. So it's difficult for us to go and verify the accuracy exactly of this data. What we can do is to have an indirect measurement and to look at this from the opposite perspective, which is, do people complain that this is inaccurate? And so we can work with the compliance department at ICANN to look at how many people are actually complaining about something, and not only simply complaining, because that's a metric that will be easily abused, but complaints that are validated by the compliance department and acted on by the compliance department. So there are some statistics that are already published that we're going to use to do that. Another one is on abuse. So we have another project in ICANN called DAR, which means Domain Abuse Activity Reporting, which essentially is looking at feeds of anti-abuse lists. So there are things like Spamhaus and Serble and a bunch of others that are industry standard, industry widely used standards of domains that are known to be linked to abuse. Some of them are linked to spam, to phishing, to malware, botnet, or sometimes all of them together. So we are going to, for each top-level domain that we have a contract with, essentially those are the GTLDs, we're going to count how many of those names that belong to those TLDs are in those lists. So for example, if we were to take dot something, and how many domains that end in dot something are contained in those lists. So we'll break this down again in spam, phishing, malware, and botnet. The third metric will be on what is happening at the root. And we heard from Jeff yesterday that about 60, 70, 75%, depending on how you count, of the traffic to the root is for things that don't exist, no such domain. We also have a very, very large number of queries that are going to the root for things that have already been asked just like a tenth of a second or a second just earlier. While normally if a recursive resolver goes to the root and asks for something, there's a time to live associated to that, says, please, that information is valid for an hour, come back in an hour if you want to ask again. If you ask again the next second, there's something wrong. If you put all this together, some of the measurements that we've done are showing that there's only about 2%, 2.5% of queries that should really have been sent in the first place. Again, this number doesn't matter, but what we would like to know is next year going to be the same or is it going to be worse? And how is this trending? Leakage. So there are all kinds of issues with domains that are being used internally, like for example .corp, .mail, .belkin, and they should never go out on the internet, except that, well, they do. So that creates a bunch of problems, and we would like to measure year after year what is the prevalence of those domains in queries sent to the root. So we'll make a list of all the strings that have not been delegated by ICANN and that end up as being seen at the roots. Resolvers misbehavior. So looking at some studies that we did with APNIC on resolver data, we see that there's about 10,000 resolvers that cover like 90% of the users or more. So we can focus on those. And we have heard anecdotal evidence that sometimes resolvers are not telling the truth. So you ask for something, and the resolver is not giving you the actual answer, but giving you another answer. Or sometimes the resolver in the service provider is intercepting all your DNS traffic, send it through this particular resolver that may or may not be giving you the right answer. So we have some research project in collaboration with APNIC, with Jeff Houston, to try to measure this and see if we can come up with some interesting statistics. The last part of the project is about protocol parameters. So that's really IETF territory. We've decided to scope this to the protocol parameters that are somehow relevant to the DNS. So we're going to look at the DNS registries that are maintained by IANA. And essentially, we break things down into some submetrics. We want to look at the traffic that goes to the root server or the traffic that goes to the recursive resolvers. And for example, to find how many of the requests are for a specific RR type. Like how many requests are for A records, how many requests are for quad A records, MX records, things like that. How many DNSSEC parameters are actually being used for other technology like TLSA and usage of specific crypto algorithm in DNSSEC and others. So we have a tool that we have used to analyze the logs at the root and to analyze traffic intercept at the root to figure out what is the frequency of those parameters. We would like to work with service providers that operate recursive resolver to collect statistics at that perspective point on the internet to see if we see the same picture at the root and at recursive resolver. Another metric is looking at the number of top-level domains that are signed with DNSSEC. And another thing that was suggested is trying to look through the DNS at TLS usage and see how much traffic is actually being encrypted that way. So that's where we are in this project. We have those metrics being defined, starting some workshops with the community to get feedback on this, and we'd like to work with community members, specifically service provider, that can help us to collect this data. And again, if there's one thing, two things I would like you to remember from this is we are not going to make any policies from this. We are going to provide this data to people like you who are actually doing the real policy work. That's the number one. And the number two is when we are looking at those metrics, the actual number is not as important as the trend. Because at the end of the day, the goal is to know, are we doing better this year or not? So that's the end of my presentation. And if you have questions, I will be willing to answer them now, or later today, you can find me. I will be sticking around. Thank you.
Thanks, Eden. We open mic to one or two questions or comments. Is there anyone have any question or suggestion or comment? No. Okay. Nice. Thanks, Eden. Yeah.
Thank you.
Eden. So the next presentation is about proposal 120. It's the final CHA pool exhaustion plan. We welcome Tomoshiro Fujisaki-san. Welcome.
Okay, Tomohiro Fujisaki again, and this time I'll present proposal 120, final state pool exhaustion plan. Okay, objective of this proposal is so simple to give a guidance for the final /8 address pool exhaustion. And I got this graph from the Jeff's projection page, and as you can see, APNIC44 pool, which is the light blue line, will be exhausted in around the 2020. So we need to discuss policy for to manage the end of the address allocation. And this is my proposed procedure, but maybe to read the sentence is very complex, so please see the next slide. This figure shows the proposed policy and current practice. And left side is the current practice. Under the current policy, we have two address pools. One is 103/8 final/8 address block, and another is IPv4 recovered pool. And just now, LIR can get up to /22 from each pool. And also, the returned address, 103 returned address put into the 103 recovered 103 pool, and the non-103 returned address is put into the IPv4 recovered pool. And just now, correct me if I'm wrong, IPv4 recovered pool was exhausted, empty, and we have the waiting list for the IPv4 recovered pool. And the right side is my proposed policy. After 103 pool exhaustion, I propose to merge these two blocks into one, and LIR can get up to /21 from this pool. And about the returned address, all returned address put into this one pool. And also, I propose to give the priority to the new entrants. And yes, and maybe the start of this policy, we have no IPv4 address in the merged pool, and we have the waiting list. But for the new entrant, we give the priority to in the list. So new entrant is a higher priority than the existing organizations. Yeah, this is my proposal. And this is disadvantage and advantage, and I think the no disadvantage, and to define this kind of policy, it is possible to avoid the confusion when the final asset block will run out. And no impact to current holders. And also, I got the one question from the APNIC secretariat, and how to manage the waiting list at the 103 exhaustion. And I propose to use to start the prioritization at the end date, and at that time, so the waiting list, existing waiting list leaves as is, and just after the exhaustion, the prioritization starts under the existing waiting list. This is my proposal. Okay, summary. So I propose the procedure to manage the final /8 address block exhaustion. With current, my proposal, so existing two pools are merged and start to distribute from the merged address pool. Yep. So any question or comment or?
Hi, I'm Imran from Pakistan.
Thank you.
In your current policy solution, I don't agree with the third policy name. Each new holder can receive up to 8/21 from the IPv4 recoverable pool.
Yep.
I don't agree with this. If maybe we should retain the last /8 policy,
Yep.
where the /22 is the maximum address.
Yeah, yeah. So could you put my slide? Yeah, thank you. So
Page 4.
yes, /21. Yes, this is because currently the LIR can get 2/32. So just this, I put the same number of address. Just the reason why I.
No, this is the final policy, final
Yeah,
/8 policy.
yeah, but yes, currently LIR can get.
/21.
Yeah, but currently LIR can get.
That's the point.
Yeah.
I don't agree with.
Yeah.
You should retain or you should amend some points there to retain this last /8 policy.
Yeah, so in that sense, I don't have no strong opinion about /21. Just I put the same number because currently LIR can get /22 from their exit 103 pool and from their recovered pool. So totally LIR can get /21 just now. So just put the same number of their address in this policy, proposed policy.
Second, I think in the second last policy, could you please open the policy policy slide?
This one?
Yes, this is second last.
Second last. Okay.
No. Second last policy. Second last point.
Sorry. Which? Second last is here. This is last. This one?
Proposed policy solution.
Proposed policy.
Go back.
Yeah. Maybe this one?
Yes, second last point. This policy, as I understand,
Yeah.
for the new account holder or the existing account holder, both can meet this policy.
Yeah.
If you suggest for the existing one, then I don't agree with this statement. So I think we retain this policy only for the new accounts only for. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Kenny.
Okay, thank you. Kenny Huang, APNIC Executive Council member, speaking on behalf of my personal capacity. Basically, I'm in support for this policy proposal, but that's just one thing I want to clarify, because we have been approved the proposal we discussed yesterday. That means the final /8 will be prohibited for transfer within 5 years. So is that kind of prohibit restrict will apply for a merged IPv4 recovery pool because it didn't identify here. Just try to clarify.
Yes, I understand. In that sense, my proposal, this proposal and yesterday's 116 is a little bit conflict.
Right.
Because yes, I draft this policy and I add one sentence last 116 to
Right.
quit the 116 after the exhaustion. But currently, the 116 is accepted as a 5 years restriction. So
Right.
I think that we need to modify this proposal.
Okay.
Yes.
So do we have any current revision right now? Because we need to discuss this proposal to reach consensus right now.
So in that sense, this is just one my idea
Okay.
how to handle the
idea.
exhaustion. So if you have another idea, please give me.
I'm not author.
Actually, yesterday, one proposal is to maintain the both pool.
Right.
Yeah, something like that. It might be both is pros and cons. So this time I propose this, but I know, yes, there are some conflict between yesterday's policy. So please give any comment about this policy. I will refine this.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Question?
FTAP.
This is GZ Kabir from Bangladesh.
Thank you.
Tamariga-san, thank you very much for bringing this proposal. 103/8 is almost, we can see it's going out. This proposal, actually, we are discussing this at the right moment because we need to think of the future. I support your proposal.
Yep.
But I have some observations. Actually, there is one question, one big question with me, that after exhaustion,
Yep.
how big is the bucket we are thinking of? The post pool? Is it multiple /8 or something? See, the current policy says, let me elaborate a bit my question. Current policy says we can get 103/8 pool /22 and the recovered pool
Yep.
/22. So it's a simple mathematics that plus 2 plus 2/22 will make 1/21. That's why the proposal is /21.
Yeah.
But think of 103 is out, so we have only recovered pool. So, if we do not have multiples or more than multiple /8, we cannot think of giving away to our new applicants /21. Forget about the already members, new applicants, though they need to start their program. So, /21, if you give away without having multiple /8 big bucket, will exhaust very soon. It's a big number, /21. So I really request you to modify this proposal to /22 at least. There is also a but here, 2 buts. One is /22 cannot sustain for a long time if the bucket is not big enough. We are not talking about /21. My suggestion is /22 at least, at best. And /22 will not last long. So let us take the funny process of half cycle. That is my suggestion.
Yep.
That when it comes to half of the pool, let us make it to /23. And then /24, and we cannot divide further. So we are not going to take the /29 policy here. So /22 is our thinking. And not only that, the second part is, are we considering existing member in the existing policy? We are actually giving highest priority to new applicants. And let the starters start their business. So I will stick to the new applicants if you give me a choice. So 2 observations. One, we are not, I do agree with your proposal.
Yep.
Second, the best can be /22 with half cycle and of course with new applicants. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Yeah, actually, yeah, distributed on size after the exhaustion is one of the discussion point. And yes, thank you so much for your comment.
Aftab Siddiqui. Well, I've stopped saying that I'm speaking in my personal capacity because it still says ISOC. So anyway. GZ already stole all my ideas. So the problem is I do support having a proposal, but there are many loopholes in the current one. I'm just repeating what GZ said, that we have to have one pool only and we should treat it as one pool, means nothing more than /22. And we said it multiple times yesterday that during the 116 discussion that whatever is left in the bucket is for the new entrants and nothing for the existing one. So we have to get rid of that. And I really like that idea of half cycle. So probably consider that. What would be the formula of that? It's going to be complicated, but we can work out on that one. So I like the idea of having a post-exhaustion proposal, but I don't support this proposal in current form at the moment. Thank you.
Oh, okay, thank you so much.
Yeah. Parhar, see, your proposal actually expands the horizon of this whole problem. How it does is, we have got two. One is the recovered pools, and one we have got the 103 pool, right? Recovered pools are the normal way of doing the APNIC activities, where any recovered IP addresses are allocated to the next in line member who is in line in waiting list, right? So that is one side of the story. The second side of the story is your 103 pool. Remember the principle. The principle on which 103 pool was allocated was to give new businesses a head start, right? So if that is so, then even after exhaustion, there might be recoveries made from 103 pool. So if those recoveries from 103 pool have to be done, they will be done only, I agree with everyone, /22 to the new people whose list has to be, a waiting list has to be maintained, and it should carry on, right? Even after exhaustion, that list carries on, and as their name keeps coming up, they will get allocated depending upon the recovery. While on the other side, the recovered pool, we can't ignore that community also. That recovered pool IP addresses will be, that list also needs to be maintained right through till the time these recoveries keep getting done, and in the waiting list people are given. So I would like to be considered on a little broader perspective. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. So the reason why I merged to pool is after the exhaustion, I want to give a right to get IP address for the new entrants from not only the 103 pool, but also the recovered pool. That's the intention to merge to pool. Yeah.
Thank you, Tomohiro. Adam Gosling from Secretariat again. Just in response to Kabir about /8s in the pool, I don't want to upset anyone, but there is no space, and there won't be any space. The current waiting list for the recovered pool is well over 300 requests. I think my math isn't great, but I think it's about a /14. And there's no additional space going into that. There's no more IANA space coming, very, very, very small amounts. Yep. I think we have about a 21 coming from IANA over the next 3 years. The only space that is being contributed to either of these pools in the future, in the foreseeable future, is when people don't pay their fees. And, well, most people pay their fees because they don't want to lose their space. So this is not so much about being fair to people and providing address spaces for people. This is actually more about pool management and just making sure that we've crossed all our T's and dotted our I's, because unless unless people start building IPv6 only networks and returning their /16s, there's no point in holding out for more addresses after the final /8 closes.
Okay, thank you so much for your information. I understand that I should reconsider the waiting list management. Thank you so much.
I just like to clarify what we are discussing yesterday. If I remember, yesterday we are talking about once they my name is Go, and if I remember yesterday we are talking about this proposal. The people got the the /21 or 22. They have to keep it for 5 years. Cannot transfer to other person, or yes or no?
Oh, so in that sense, could you please? Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, just left side is their current operation, and there are only 103 address block.
Yeah.
That's prohibited to transfer in 5 years.
Okay.
So
Okay.
address block from the recovered can transfer. Currently, yeah.
In the new proposal is you can transfer.
Yeah, not new, but current proposal and just yesterday's proposal is only for the 103 block.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Aftab Siddiqui. Just to respond to Adam's comment on waiting list at the moment, the suggestion I have made and other fellows have made as well, that it should be applied on the new entrants only. The moment you pass this updated policy proposal, it will remove the waiting list altogether, right? Because all the people in the waiting list are existing members.
Yes, exactly.
Right?
Yes.
So it will remove all the members from the waiting list. There won't be any waiting list for the existing member. There will be a waiting list for new entrants only, and that's it. So it will, for my classification, I would like to understand, it will demolish the existing recovered pool policy, yes or no?
Sorry, pardon me?
There is an existing recovered pool policy. That's why there is a waiting list of 300 people.
Yeah.
So how it's going to impact the existing recovered pool policy? Or there won't be any. Well, you are the proposal. You are the proposer. So are you looking into the demolishing the existing recovered pool policy, or you want to keep it as it is until the exhaustion of the last /8?
In the sense, current waiting list management exists until the exhaustion date. Yes. Just I propose is after the exhaustion.
So in response to that, because there is nothing coming in the recovered pool, right, and the waiting list is just growing. So by the time we hit the post-exhaustion of the last /8, the list will be around 500-600 people. And then we trigger this policy and then demolish the recovered pool waiting list. So why not just trigger it right now and demolish the waiting list and add a single line?
Yeah, I understand your opinion, but I personally think the recovered pool management and the after exhaustion policy is totally separate thing. So I'm not sure just now. So to merge both policy.
Okay, let me give opportunity to Adam to.
Yeah.
Perhaps I'm getting confused now. My interpretation of your proposal was that for the moment nothing changes. When the final /8 pool is exhausted, we close it. We have one merged pool. Everything that we have returned goes into that pool.
Yes.
The existing people who are on the list remain on that list.
Yeah.
Any newcomers are added to the bottom of that list. That is my current understanding of it.
At that point, yes, at the end date. Currently, I think so. That's right. Yes.
Sorry, no. So people who are already on the list get priority over newcomers to the list.
Content of the proposed policy.
Oh, this was a question that I asked on.
Yes. Yes. Actually, Adam asked on the list about that.
It was a clarification. So this is my.
This is my current proposal. So.
they will come on top.
Waiting list before exhaustion date should leave as is.
Not yes, but yes.
I agree, because the people
Yeah.
who are already on the list have
Yes,
been
yes,
waiting
yes.
already.
Yes. But I also understand that, so someone says that we should clear the list when they are others exist. I understand that reason, but yes, currently I'm not sure which is best or.
And I'm sorry, I
which
have
is fair.
another
Yeah.
point for clarification
Yeah.
regarding the proposal that reached consensus yesterday about the 5-year wait period.
Yep.
Would that also apply, and this is a very small number of cases, but 103 blocks post-exhaustion, 103 blocks returned to the recovered pool and then reissued again by the Secretariat, would they also have a 5-year waiting list? Because that seems a little unfair. I happened to get a 103 off the recovered pool, you didn't, I can't transfer, you can. So I think that's another further complication that we now have.
Yeah. Actually, that's one point I should define this proposal because of the yesterday's
Situation has
discussion.
changed.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Parhad, see, like I said earlier,
Yeah.
there are two aspects which need to be kept in mind. One is the recovered pool and
Yeah,
the
yeah.
people who are dependent on the recovered pool.
Yeah.
Remember, justice should not only be done, but seen to be done. So their recovered pool and their list will remain live. After all, it's just data entries on our system. That's all. Whether we only get in the next 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, we are only returned with 1/22. That's all right. As long as there is hope of some recovery or there is a chance of some recovery, that list will remain live. That is what the natural justice says. And that is for the recovered pool members on the waiting list. So please, that has to be kept separate. On the other side, 103 pool was created for a specific purpose. It is a special vehicle. It is a special purpose. And that purpose was to handhold new entrants. So those new entrants list, which is already there, that list will remain live, even after exhaustion. And once the exhaustion is there, both these lists should remain live as it is. You can't tamper with closed lists here, stop there, because nothing is changing. Those lists will remain live. So I don't agree with the proposal from that perspective.
Yes, so in that sense, I recognize that the recovered pool or waiting list management and also the assignment size is a big discussion point. And yeah, I'll draft the maybe some option for the such kind of
May I
waiting
have-
list management and also the
May I have
assignment size?
less
Yeah.
comment? Okay.
So, Aftab Siddiqui. Again, I'm just suggesting few things. It's up to the proposer to add it or not. Point 1, abolish the current waiting list.
Yeah.
Point 2, minimum /22 or
Yeah, yeah.
and follow the half-life circle.
Yes.
And point number 3 is it's only for the new entrants. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
so make it simple, and if you pass it right now, so you don't have to wait for the post-exhaustion, because by the time you reach post-exhaustion, that is next 3 years, as per the graphs you showed, right? So in 3 years' time, you will be having at least 600 people in the waiting list. And as your comment says that the new entrants will get the priority after the existing dates.
Yes. I
So
understand. Yeah.
let's suppose after the exhaustion that there are 600 people.
Yeah.
Even I'll get a priority being a new member. I still get the
Yes.
601 number. And people who are in the waiting list are all requesting for /22.
Yep.
And there's nothing coming in from the recovered pool. And whatever comes in, I have absolutely no chance getting anything in next 10 years. right? So the only option for me is to go with IPv6. Well, I would love to do that, but the thing is, being realistic, I think you should remove the current waiting list altogether. Thank you.
Thank you.
Last one, maybe give a short comment. Yeah, okay.
Brajesh Jain here. Number one, it should be /22 and nothing bigger than that, or whatever. And second thing is, if the existing list continues, which fairness demands, a new person will have very little chance. As Adam has said, that very few addresses are getting recovered, and this. So maybe I would request you to consider redrafting in that context, that how could new can get the preference and while maintaining fairness. If they are becoming 601 as Aftab says, then they will not probably get anything at all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Lu Hen from Lazarus Cloud Service. I'd like to comment on the waiting list part. I believe there's many organizations in our region has been waited years for the extra 4C class of space, and I think they entitled and as well as deserved for their waiting time. So I don't think we should reset the waiting list. It will be really unfair to the current operators. I agree the return space could just for the newcomer, that's fine, but the people has already waited. I mean, let them just get a space by, by their waiting. We can close the waiting list at a certain point after exhaustion, but I don't think we should just clean it up. That's really not fair to the 600 or 1,000 members who are already waited for years. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so could you show the slide on the page 4?
Page 4?
Yeah. Okay. So based on our procedure, we still need to make some consensus in this proposal, and I suggest we have make some consensus about the support this concept of the proposal, and we need to hope to also to modify this proposal. Okay, so in general, anyone who support this version of proposal, please raise your hand. And anyone who oppose this proposal, please raise your hand.
Sorry?
And
yeah, so I got so many comments to this proposal, and so maybe many people, maybe all people agree to the concept to meet the end policy, but so we have to consider the detail procedure itself. So
okay.
Yes, I.
So
yeah.
So also have to need to make more modification for this proposal.
Yeah.
So this is our consensus. It is okay.
Can I recommend the chair? When you are asking, is consistent to the previous proposal, asking the strong oppose, neutral, support, and strong support. That just makes it consistent to the previous session, please.
Okay. So we still make this procedure. Okay. So first, anyone who strongly support this proposal, please raise your hand. Anyone support this proposal, please raise your hand. Okay. And anyone neutral for this proposal, please raise your hand. Neutral. Neutral. And anyone who oppose this proposal.
actually, I'm confused here. I'm not opposing, but I want suggestive modification. I don't know under which category I put myself.
And you, neutral. And the next,
I'm not neutral.
okay. So let's anyone who strongly oppose this proposal, please raise your hand. Okay, so maybe it's not consensus, and the need to be more modification, right? And we also see a confirm. And just mention that you need to log in the My APNIC and that you can use this confirm system. We back this proposal to the mailing list, and very glad many people give very valuable comment and suggestion to us. Thanks.
Thank you so much. I'll post the new version of my idea, so please comment on the list. Thank you so much.
Okay. Okay. The next proposal is about the IPv6. And there are proposal 121 and 122 because these two proposals is related. So we hope to also the Jody can present these two proposals at the same time. Okay, welcome, Jody.
Okay, I am going to present both proposals in sequence to save some time. They are not exactly the same, but more or less the goal is the same. So probably we can have a somehow common discussion, even if we need to ask for consensus, we need to do it separately. So the first one, 121, is updating initial IPv6 allocation policy. Let me explain what is the problem I think we have right now. The actual policy text in section 9.2.2, account holders without existing IPv4 space, is assuming that the LIR will have more than 200 customers over a period of 2 years, or it is already an IPv4 LIR. What happens if you have an ISP that have just 50 big corporate customers? They could not apply under this actual text, right? What about someone that cannot have IPv4 address space because there is this big waiting list, there is no more space even for new entrants, so they cannot also go into this actual policy text, right? What about someone that need to write down an addressing plan now that is not for 2 years, but they want to implement it over 3 or more years? So there are different situations which I believe the actual text leaves them on the edge. I'm not really sure they will qualify with the actual text. So let's look at a specific example, and I make up a country in this region. I make up this country as Shangri-La. And let's suppose this is a special case. It's a stream one to show what I am trying to describe, at least one of the cases, because small ISPs, I think, is obvious. It's an ISP that has less than 200 customers. And this is actually a problem that we had already in RIPE, for example. Okay, so let's suppose we have a big country that is requesting addressing a space. They need to make a plan not just for 2 years, because they are going to take 3, 4, 5 years to implement their IPv6 deployment. It's a government network connecting different layers of, let's say, autonomous smaller governments. Okay, so like At layer 1, we can have states, regions, federal governments, districts, autonomies. Every country call it in a different way. We can have constitutional bodies, other organizations, and so on. At the level 2, they want to have, because the regions are split geographically, they want to have that split as well geographically. And at the level 3, at every region, you have cities, districts, suburbs, neighborhoods, schools, health centers, many kind of things, right? Many kind of institutions. So if they come to APNIC, they could request each of one of the levels 1/32, and let's say they have in total 40 entities. They could get 40/32 under the actual policy, which is /26. If they try to make a single network managed by one of the ministries, which is the case in some countries, they will prefer to get a single LIR and obtain a single /26 instead of 40/32. It's the same. There is no difference. The difference is becoming 40 LIRs or a single LIR with a bigger addressing space. I am not really sure, and this was the case in Europe, in RIPE, they will actually qualify for this single /26. So my policy proposal is trying to solve both problems. The smaller ISPs problem, but also the bigger ones, okay? Which I believe it will be more common along we start or we increase the IPv6 deployment. Okay, so what is the target for the policy change? Well, actually is to get it aligned with a wider set of possible IPv6 deployment cases, as I just described it, and facilitate the justification of this bigger prefix address block, right? If it's the default one, I am not changing that. So if they are requesting this /32, I am not touching that. There were some comments in the mailing list. I think it's clarified, and here is very clear that I am not changing that. Situation in other regions, I already mentioned in RIPE, we have this situation. We have, for example, the Spanish government not being able to get their prefix because the policy didn't allow it that until 2 years ago, more or less, when the policy was changed. So what is the actual policy text? Section 922, I am only touching the point 4, okay? The rest is not changed at all. So if you look at the change I have done, I made just one small clarification in the point 3, which is keeping the mandatory requirement that they should start the deployment within 2 years, so I don't change that. I just change the place where it says so, but don't change that requirement. I also clarified that when you said, let's go back, previously make assignments, IPv6 connectivity to organizations, okay? It's not just organizations, it's also end users, okay? Because an ISP, basically what is going to connect is, of course, corporate, but also residentials. So I make sure that this is clear in this proposed text. And then what I am changing is what it was before point number 4, I change it to the allocation size in case an address block bigger than the default one, which is defined somewhere else as a /32, will be based on the number of users, the extent of the organization infrastructure, the hierarchical and geographical structuring of the organization, the segmentation of infrastructure for security, and the planned longevity of the organization. So you are not restricted to a period of time. You just make your addressing plan and you say, this is my addressing plan for N years, and this is the prefix I want for this addressing plan. I tend to remember, somebody from RIPE can confirm it, that this text was somehow negotiated between the policy proposals for this modification in RIPE and RIPE itself to make sure that the host masters can verify somehow what is being requested, right? I mean, the text has been very, very, very deeply revised until we get in RIPE a final text, which is this one, to align all the possibilities and not make it difficult to measure, right?
Ingrid from RIPE NCC. I wouldn't say negotiated, but we've given our input on the text and given our
ground wording, not negotiated, but
yeah. But we've given our input on what would work and what would not work.
And taking the opportunity, you are in the microphone. This has been in RIPE for about 2 years, I think.
Yes.
2 years, 2 years and a half. And you have got any problems trying to evaluate those requests, or it's actually feasible?
It's working quite well.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Because that's one of the inputs that I got in the mailing list. The people was thinking, hey, this is very difficult to evaluate. Actually not, because instead of having a fixed rule, you are having a rule that the one requesting a prefix need to say, hey, this is what I want because this and this and this. So you require some more work to justify it. You require a more detailed addressing plan, but that means that it will be more complying with your real needs, okay? Instead of the default one. If you still want to go to the default one, no problem. You got your /32 and that's it. But this is more close to your real needs. And again, the last paragraphs, I don't change that. Advantage of the proposal, fulfilling the objective of what I have indicated before, so allowing a more realistic alignment of the policy text with the market reality. We don't have any more IPv4, and what is clear, Adam mentioned before in the microphone, is that maybe the previous policy will not really be necessary because the people will start refilling the pool somehow. Well, if we really go for IPv6 only deployments, as more and more content providers have their services with IPv6, what we need is more IPv6 addresses, and the IPv4 ones will be less and less, okay? So, like, using 464XLAT, the people don't need IPv4 at all in the access network, so the number of IPv4 addresses in the edge, in the NAT64 boxes are also decreasing, not increasing, so that makes everything easy. So that's trying to align with the real expectations of what is going to happen in the future. What is the disadvantage of the proposal? Well, like in any other proposal, people trying to abuse about the policy, or that can be done as well, creating new LIRs and making sure that the staff don't realize that it's the same company or things like that. So I don't think this is going to change whatever we have today. There is no impact on resource holders. And I put here a couple of references, one from the RIPE existing text and another one also for LACNIC, because I didn't mention before, but we also had the same modification in LACNIC about 1 year ago, I think, more or less, okay? So I think that's it for this proposal. So if you want, I keep going with the other one?
122.
Yeah. So you change to the other one, please. So what I just presented was for the initial allocation. Proposal 1 to 2 is trying to look at the same target, but for subsequent allocations. So it may happen that you have requested a /32, and now you do a good addressing plan, because when you requested the /32, you didn't consider it really what are your real needs in terms of IPv6 deployment, and now you say, hey, I didn't thought that I need to give a /56 or whatever to every customer. I was thinking just a /64, which is wrong, right? So now if I need to have one /56 for every customer, I have, I don't know how many millions of customers, I don't have enough with /32. So you need to come back to request more space, right? So the idea is, let's try to align the text of the subsequent allocation, which what I just presented, okay? So nevertheless, we accept, we have consensus in the previous proposal or not, we need to make sure that subsequent allocations are right in terms of what are the real needs of the holder that needs more addressing space. So the actual policy text in section 9.3.4, size of subsequent allocation is assuming that an LIR will need just doubling his actual block, okay? It states the possibility of more space providing the relevant documentation, and again is limiting that to 2 years period. So again, I am not going to repeat this. This could be an example of a government that started with a small network and now needs the real one, the real deployment. So what is the target? Again, making sure that subsequent IPv6 allocation policies synchronized with the initial allocation one. So basically, we're trying to make sure that what we request to document an initial allocation is the same that what we request for a subsequent one. Or if you already got the initial and now want subsequent, it's consistent with your real needs, your real addressing plan. Again, this situation was the same in RIPE, and I think it was about 6 months ago. I submitted a policy proposal, and it was accepted. And in LACNIC, we have right now a policy proposal for doing the same, which is going to be presented next week, actually. Okay, so it has been already discussed in the list and so on, and it's just trying to match both things. So again, this is the actual policy text. And in red, what I am changing. So right now, it says if an organization needs more address space, it must provide documentation justifying its requirements for a 2 years period. The allocation made will be based on this requirement. And what I am saying is repeating the same text I put in the previous proposal. So they are consistent. Never mind, again, we have consensus in one or the other or both. They can both regardless they are coordinated or not. So if an organization needs more address space, it must provide documentation justifying its new requirements. The allocation size will be based on the new needs, number of users, extent of organization infrastructure, hierarchy and geographical structuring of the organization, segmentation for security and planning longevity of the allocation. So that's simple, exactly the same as we had before. Advantages, again, fulfilling the target, and disadvantages, again, it may happen, we have abuse, but that might happen today with existing policies. There is no impact on resource holders, and again, reference to the existing policy in RIPE and the proposal in LACNIC. And I think that's it. Thank you. Questions? Doubts? I speak too fast. You have seen too many times me this week. You are bored.
Well, Adam Gosling from APNIC Secretariat again. Thank you very much for these proposals, Geordie. Your instructions to me are very clear. It's very helpful to have old text and new text. I've hidden some things in other places in the policy document that would affect this, and I just want to clarify a couple of those with you. In section 9.1, which refers to the minimum IPv6 allocation, it makes reference to the HD ratio, and I wonder whether your proposal affects our use of that. So we would still apply the HD ratio in the initial allocation, and in the subsequent allocation, you didn't change the text that says once the address holder has reached acceptable utilization, that means HD ratio.
Yeah.
And that would not change?
We have the same thinking when we were drafting the proposals for RIPE, and we decided not to go that way, so that's not changed at all. So that means basically existing holders of IPv4 address space can go to the old way without needing that big change. Okay, so it don't means for existing holders that don't need something different that what the HD ratio says, don't need justify anything else. But if you are doing your planning with something totally different than what HD ratio will say, let's say that way, you can justify it. So it's open to both ways, let's say.
Okay, thank you.
But we don't cancel, let's say that way, we don't cancel the actual HD ratio, let's say, suggestions. Okay?
Thank you very much.
Hi, Jody, Aftab Siddiqui here. As Adam said, thank you so much for bringing this proposal once again. Our good friend Owen DeLong brought this same proposal many years ago. The only problem with that one was nibble boundary, and that's why it didn't work out well. So he suggested that allocation should be on the basis of nibble boundary, so from 32 to 28. But I just have a quick question on that one is, even Secretariat can clarify that even today, if you are receiving a /32, host masters are still reserving a /28 for you. And then you can go back and ask for the other /32.
I think in all the regions, what they are doing is what they call a sparse allocation. So if this is the space that APNIC got allocated by ICANN, and you request this, there is some space here and probably here, so you can grow on their next allocations, okay? Of course, it may happen that you have two ISPs that got this space and they become congested. But I think that's a different problem than this one. What it can create that situation is that if, for example, you got allocated to /32 and the space next to that one was occupied by other requests, instead of announcing, and you now request, let's say, a /31, instead of announcing one /32, you will have two. While if there is a space, you can announce, instead of one /32, one /31, which is a bigger length. But it's the same block.
So even with the sparse allocation, if I go back and ask for the other /32, I'll get it from the same contiguous block, right? So I can.
If there is a space, yes.
Yeah. So that's what I want to clarify with the Secretariat, if they are reserving. Oh, he's already here. Sorry.
Okay.
The way we manage sparse allocation at APNIC is we actually have a few different blocks. A sub-block for a giant network, sub-block for, we know that it would be small networks, and we apply different sparse methodology. So we can handle this, not a problem.
In the worst case, what it happens is that an ISP that requests more than what you reserve will get...
Well, too bad. Look,
we'll need to announce two blocks. That's it.
We try to maximize aggregation, but you know, there's no guarantee. Sometimes you do have to split.
But at the end, the point is that this is not relevant to this policy proposal. It's nothing related to this. I mentioned this because in LACNIC, to improve this, I have made one additional policy proposal that went through, it's already accepted, to also improve that. But that's a different topic.
I don't agree that it's a different topic. I think it's correlated. But anyhow, I do support 1-to-1 and 1-to-2 in its current form. But it would be great if we can accommodate the other unrelated topic in your opinion and related topic in my opinion. But anyway, in the current state as it is, I have no objection. I do support this.
Thank you. My experience to make policies with a lot of changes at the same time is that it gets too complex for the people to understand. I remember a few years ago, I make a big policy proposal change in this region, and the staff suggested me break it in 5 policy proposals, otherwise So I think it's much better sometimes to split it in smaller changes. Okay.
Luhan from the Roost Cloud Service. I do support this proposal, and I agree with the proposers that CITI need to take its steps. It will greatly streamline and simplify the IPv6 allocation process, which will encourage the regional development of the IPv6. Will greatly help smaller ISPs get their IPv6 much more easily, and the potential to get a larger allocation than /32 will also enable you to get a more smooth deployment over multiple data centers. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so let's end of the discussion, and we go back to the proposal 121, and we hope to make, go for the consensus in this proposal. And maybe you can switch to the slide to show the page 7. Yes, sir. Yep. Yes. So in this proposal, this modify the content on the screen, and we make some. If you strongly support this proposal, please raise your hand. Strongly support. Okay, thank you. If you support this proposal, please raise your hand. Okay. If you are neutral for this proposal, please raise your hand. Okay, thanks. If you strongly oppose this proposal, please raise your hand. No? If you oppose this proposal? No? So I think
do the confirm, you check.
we check the confirm. No opinion. So okay. So I think this proposal 121 is make the consensus. Okay. So and okay. Okay. So in the following, we hope to make a consensus for the proposal 122, and we switch to the slide. The page 7. This the proposed part solution. It's the red word on the screen. Give a few minutes to read this content. And okay, so you strongly support this proposal, please raise your hand. No? Oh, one? Okay. Okay, good. If you support this proposal, please raise your hand. Okay, thanks. If you neutral for this proposal, please raise your hand. Okay, thanks. And if you strongly oppose this proposal, please raise your hand. No. If you oppose this proposal, please raise your hand. No? And let me check the comfort. Yes. So, so this proposal 122 is also make the consensus.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jody. Thanks.
Thanks, Ching-Hang, and thanks everyone. And that's the end of our policy 6 sessions. So we have went through 6 proposals in 2 days, and thanks for your patience and thanks for being here. And thank you very much again for very vibrant discussion. We should not wait in between lunch and us. So that's the end of this session, and please join in the AMM at 2. Thank you very much.